Immigration compliance in the age of Trump 2.0. There are several different aspects to immigration compliance. We talked 2 weeks ago on Live at Lunch about immigration compliance in terms of I-9s. Today, we are talking about immigration compliance in terms of potential ICE visits at the worksite. My name is Emily Sumner with Sumner Immigration Law. This is Live at Lunch, and I'm so glad that you've joined us, whether you're joining us live or catching the replay. So today, as I said, we're talking about the possibility of ICE worksite visits. This is something that has been kind of sensationalized in the news. A lot of people are worried about, not without reason, for sure, but it's important that our information that we're absorbing and receiving is based in reality, not based on fear. So what can you expect in terms of potentially a visit by ICE to your work site? First of all, know that if there is an I-9 audit, that also can be conducted by ICE. If that happens, ICE is supposed to give 3 days written notice of inspection, and that's an inspection of the paperwork, the I-9 paperwork, not ICE coming for a particular individual or employee. It is also possible, so in our previous video 2 weeks ago, we talked about I-9 compliance, coming up with a plan for that, a written plan for that, if you're visited by ICE, that type of thing. So in this particular video, we're talking about when or if ICE comes for a specific person. So first situation, possible situation, is they could come to the work site with the intention of arresting a specific person or persons. If ICE enters the workplace and they say, they start asking questions. First of all, none of this is legal advice. This is, general considerations, but just in general, you don't have to talk to the person. You don't have to answer questions. You can say, I want to speak with my attorney. In general, ICE can enter public spaces. They can ask questions, but you don't have to answer. It is important to check if ICE has a warrant of arrest. If they don't have a warrant of arrest, they cannot enter private spaces. In addition, you want to look at that warrant of arrest, or you want to look at the warrant to see if it's an administrative warrant or a judicial warrant. If it is an administrative warrant, that's going to be issued by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. So it's kind of like an internal warrant that they have created themselves. So if they have an administrative warrant, then you don't have to let them into private spaces. If they have a judicial warrant, that is going to have on the warrant the name of the court. It's going to be signed by a judge. That means ICE has gone through the process of having this judge sign the judicial warrant, and ICE has to show probable cause. That's a Fourth Amendment, or a Fourth Amendment right, rather. So it's important that you determine whether they have a judicial warrant or administrative warrant, because that will determine in turn how you respond, what spaces they are allowed into. If ICE has a judicial warrant, they can arrest individuals named in the warrant. It's generally recommended that you not sign anything, that you not say anything, that you say that you want to speak with a lawyer, but they can arrest a person who's named in the judicial warrant. Like I said, if it's an administrative warrant, you don't have to let them in and you don't have to answer questions. You can say that you don't wish to speak with officers. So it is, the key takeaway here is to make sure that you can tell the difference and to be prepared to determine the difference between an administrative warrant versus a judicial warrant. In addition, it is important that you have a plan in place. Have a written, documented plan in place about who your major point of contact is going to be, both individually, the person at your work site, and who is going to be the lawyer point of contact. Who's the lawyer going to be that you contact if and when this happens? In addition, you want to make sure that your I-9s are, of course, in compliance. It may be worth it to do an internal I-9 audit, and to have a response plan, a written response plan to outline exactly how you're going to respond if you do have an audit. One thing I didn't talk about, I mentioned that ICE can come to arrest a particular individual at a work site. They can also have what's called a raid. And a lot of times that's what we hear about in the news, right, is that ICE is planning to do these raids on work sites. If that happens, they have to have a judicial warrant, and a lot of times other agencies are involved in that as well. So just know that it is possible for them to come for a specific person. for the purpose of arresting a specific person at a work site, or it can be a raid, which is a wider spread investigation, unfortunately. Either way, you absolutely should have a written plan in place. Make sure that everyone who could potentially come into contact with ICE is aware of this written plan, that everybody is aware of who the point of contact should be, that individuals should not be giving information, handing over documents, answering questions, except whatever is within your written plan that hopefully has been reviewed by a lawyer. So make sure that you're proactive, review your audit, your I-9s, have an internal audit, have a designated person, have a designated attorney to call if and when this happens so that you can plan your next steps. I know that this is a really scary time in terms of US immigration. It's a scary environment for all of us, basically. Whether you are a US citizen or whether you are a foreign national here on a temporary visa or with a green card, it's a really scary time. But one of the most important things that we can do is to plan ahead, to prepare, to know what potentially to expect. We can't anticipate everything that's going to happen, but we can potentially know what to expect and have a written plan to respond as best that we can. And to educate yourself. And like I said, know the difference between an administrative warrant and a judicial warrant and how to respond to each one of those. So I hope that you have found this information helpful. If so, I hope you will share this video with a friend or colleague, and make sure that you join us next week for our live at lunch at noon Eastern. Until then, I'm Emily Sumner with Sumner Immigration Law, serving clients around the country and from around the world with employment-based and family-based immigration matters. Until next time.